Hey everybody, Wayne here. In today's overview and review, I'm taking a look at Archie's War, The Battle for Guadalcanal, designed by Derek Croxton and published by Worthington Publishing. Thank you to Worthington for sending me this copy to review. Archie's War is a solitaire and two-player wargame. However, I've only played it solitaire, and that is the perspective that my review will have. In the solitaire game, you play as Alexander Archie Vandegrift, commander of the 1st Marine Division, tasked with holding Guadalcanal against the Japanese. Your Marines are isolated in 3 separate locations as the Japanese build up around you. You must hold each location to protect Henderson Field, your lifeline on the island. The Japanese forces will often build up before they launch attacks, and you'll have to deal with the occasional random event that could help you or hurt your chances to hold. Let's go ahead and do a quick overview. I have a complete solo playthrough video for an in-depth look at the game. I'll cover my pros and cons, and then we'll end with my final thoughts. All right, let's do an overview of the game board and of the gameplay itself. So you can see the map here. It's broken up into different areas. You have Henderson Field here in the center. That is not an area that units move into or defend directly. Instead, outside you see Coley Point, Bloody Ridge, Point Cruz. You're going to have locations for Marines and for the Japanese forces. The Japanese are going to build up, and they're going to be attacking those locations. At the same time, there are events that can happen where the Japanese will be bombarding Henderson Field itself with air raids or artillery. Now, your goal in the game is to survive through 18 turns. Henderson Field, there's 2 ways to lose, I should say. Henderson Field falls, which Henderson Field gets damaged beyond repair. Every time it takes a hit, I mentioned artillery, airstrikes. This cube is gonna get moved to the left. Starts at 0 here, but there's a box to the left. It can get moved off the box, but it has to be repaired before the end of the turn. If it's not, you lose. During the course of the game, you're also probably going to want to keep repairing it, because if you notice this number at the bottom here in these aircraft that show up, that's going to increase your air support that'll help you when you're defending the different locations. Speaking of locations, that's the other way you can lose, which is if the Japanese overwhelm your Marines at any of the 3 locations here on the perimeter. As soon as they overwhelm that location, Henderson Field is taken and you lose. So defend for 18 turns, and at the end, you win. Units themselves for the solitaire game are very simple. You can see cubes here with Marines and Japanese forces on them. The number is SV, strength value. Very simple. When you're doing combat, you're going to do a direct comparison, and if it's tied or the Americans have more, then the Americans inflict a loss on the Japanese. The Japanese have more, they inflict a loss on the Marines, unless they have twice as many. So say you ended up, and there's additional modifiers, which the nice thing is that all the modifiers you need are printed directly on the board, including tables as well. Damage table, bonsai table, sequence of play up here. If the Japanese have twice as much strength as you, they overwhelm that position, they take Henderson Field, and, well, you lose the game. Like I mentioned before, different charts and tables are all written right on the map. And as for the sequence of play, how the game is ran is each turn starts off with the American player choosing an action. Now you can see you have an American actions in these different boxes over here. What you do is you actually place a cube in whatever action you choose. And it could be something like raiding one of these points. So, trying to reduce the Japanese strength there. You could be setting out a patrol to reduce Japanese infiltration chances, trying to repair Henderson Field. Or the last one is appeal to the Navy for help, which then has you rolling on the American events table here. However, a unique aspect of the game here and of the mechanism is that you select an action. You don't conduct the action right away. You select it, then you go ahead and conduct the Japanese action. You roll for their actions over here. You carry it out, and they are attacking. Maybe they're building up forces. They may roll for a random event, etc. Once you're all finished with the Japanese turn, then you go back to the Americans and you go ahead and resolve the American action. The end phase, then, you can, as the Americans, you can maneuver or move your Marines around the island. Also, you can see here a globe and anchor, 3rd, 6th, 9, 12, 15. You get a small amount of reinforcements during the game as well. The victory and loss, like I mentioned, has to do with holding the points and holding out against the Japanese. The game is fairly simple, fairly light rules, so for the most part, that pretty much explains the game. Like I mentioned before, I do have an actual solitaire playthrough video if you want to go watch that and see me play through an entire game, but that's the gist of it. I think that's good enough for an overview. Let's go ahead to my pros and cons. All right, time for my pros and cons. As always, cons first. I'll end with my pros. First off, when you look at the sticker sheet for the game, because it is, as you can see, it's a block game. You do have a sticker sheet, you put stickers on it. And when you first open the rulebook, you're going to see a variety of unit types with unique abilities. So I showed you guys infantry when I described the solitaire game, right, with just the numbers on there. There's also, you can see other units, resupply, barbed wire, amphibious, recon, minor bombardment here, etc., right? There's multiple other types of units. Unfortunately, those are reserved for the two-player game, and they are set aside for the solitaire game. So while the solo game definitely does stand on its own, more on that later, there is a bit of a feeling of wondering what you're missing after you put all these blocks back into the box. So the game itself, it's probably a little too easy out of the box. If you've watched my playthrough video, you may wonder about that since I did lose about 2/3 of the way through. However, in my experience, that was a rarity. In the dozen games I played before filming, I only lost one other time. That means you are likely to win far more than you lose. For a solitaire war game, that's usually not what you want to hear. You know, you want to challenge each time you play. Victory should be rare and feel like an achievement. The good news is I did see a post on Board Game Geek by the designer where he mentioned posting rules that will increase the game's difficulty. If he does that, I definitely recommend you seek them out. Okay, that's it for the cons. On to the pros. The components are excellent quality, which is to be expected from Worthington. The blocks and stickers are functional, they're attractive, they work just fine. And you're given a complete extra set of stickers in case you damage any of them. The game comes with a single D6, which is all you need, along with a tray that comes in the bottom of the box for storing the blocks and cubes. As for the map, it's mounted and it's double-sided, with a solitaire side, which you can see, and a two-player side on the other side. It's not only, colorful and easy to read and easy to use, it's functional. It has all the charts and tables you need printed right on it. Speaking of play, I love how fast the game is to learn and play. You can play an entire game in less than 30 minutes. The solitaire rules are just about 3 pages. And while I was worried that meant there wasn't enough gameplay, I'm glad to say I was worried for no reason. The gameplay, while simple, does 2 things very well. It gives you choices to make every turn, and it invokes what it must have felt like to be scrambling to hold on to Henderson Field and the surrounding area from relentless Japanese attacks. Japanese infantry will assault your positions, supported by infiltrators, and Henderson Field will suffer damage from air and artillery strikes that you have to repair. I also love the mechanic where you pick an American action, but don't resolve it until after the Japanese conduct their action. That gives the feeling that unless you plan ahead and have a bit of luck, you're going to find yourself more often reacting to what the Japanese have already done instead of what they are doing right now. It makes the solo opponent have a human quality where you're kept guessing and sometimes feel a step behind. It's not only a great mechanic, it also improves replayability. I could go on, but I think you guys get the idea. That's it for my pros and cons. Let's wrap up with my final thoughts. I found myself playing Archie's War over and over. With the game rules being as light as they are, everything you need printed on the board, and a game only taking 30 minutes to play, Archie's War is a type of game you can play multiple times in a row. And those are always the type of solitaire games I love. When it comes to solo games, I want replayability, and generally speaking, I want an experience that doesn't burn my brain trying to work my way through it. I should feel the history through the gameplay without having a headache at the end of it. Archie's War gives me exactly that. The theme, the history, the gameplay, they all combine into a fantastic experience. If that sounds interesting to you, I definitely recommend Archie's War. Well done and kudos to Derek Croxton and the folks at Worthington. All right, everybody, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know what you think of my review and of this game if you've played it. And let me know if you're going to check it out because of my review in the comments below. And until next time, everybody, later.